is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse hidden somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the founder and publisher of Unwinnable. And today we're going to talk about one of our favorite genres of movies, heists, and a new game called The Job, a game of glorious heists and everything that can go wrong in them, which is live as we speak on Backerkit with the Boxset Edition of the game. Joining us today from a land far away, Andre Novoa, the creator of the game, is going to chat to us a little bit about The Job. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I've been a fan of the show, so it's an absolute delight and honor to be here with you today.
I'm such a huge fan of your work with Games Omnivorous, and it's a pleasure to have you on finally.
Thanks so much, too. It means a lot.
Yeah, we are psyched. When Tiger Wizard hit us up, was like, "Hey, do you got room?" And I'm like, "Yes, we do." So, tell our listeners a little bit about The Job.
All right. So The Job is well, as you put it, a heist game inspired by many other games, including heist games. The Job is my take or my view on how to do these more narrative, story-driven games, which is not what Games Omnivorous is known for, right? Games Omnivorous pretty much sits in the old school oriented or the new school revolution corner of the industry, of the RPG industry. And we are known for doing these mostly old school games like Mouse Ritter or Vaults of Varn, Frontier Scum, and these system agnostic supplements that you can use in pretty much whatever fantasy system you're running. Stuff like the Nine Sands, Bottled Sea, the Hex Crawl Toolbox. That's kind of where we sit in the RPG industry, and that's kind of the audience we communicate with. But there was a point about 2 years ago where I was, and this is the short version. Sorry, but I was playing a lot of these more story-driven games, like or what people call narrative, right? Like Apocalypse World, or even Fiasco at some point, or Blades in the Dark, these types of game. And I was like, maybe, I can do something with this kind of like game design style, or this style in game design. And so The Job is my kind of it came from that, and that's my personal take on this genre. Now, it has a lot of specificities that we can talk about, but this is where it came from, and also just from my personal love for for a good heist movie like Ocean's 11 or The Italian Job. These kinds of movie, I'm a sucker for a good heist movie. So it's kind of like it came from these two things, I guess.
And the game already exists, right? Because I have it. I have the original hardcover.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good place to start, actually. What inspired the idea for a big old box set version?
So yeah, that's absolutely the case. So The Job came out a couple of years ago, I think. Yeah, about 2 years ago it came out.
I have a post for it coming out this year, so it had to have been out as of yet last year. So probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Sounds
2
right.
years ago. Yeah, it was 2 years ago, and we did a very small print run. It was only 500 books, which kind of sold out relatively quick because I wasn't really sure if it was a very experimental project for me, as I was saying, because it's not what we normally, and we can talk a bit more about the game design aspects and what the game does and how does it, mechanically, and what does it do in terms of the rules wise and stuff. But it was a very experimental and different game from what we normally did. So we only did a small print run, but then, it kind of gained some traction and it sold really well. The response was great. I received emails like a store in Denmark, in Copenhagen, that wanted, another 20 or 30 copies because apparently there are groups there that play the job every week and stuff like that. So it's like, it kind of, I wasn't really expecting that kind of response, but it was there and people got excited about the game. And we already sold the rights to translation to Spanish, Italian, and more recently French. So it's a game that's gained some traction. Last fall, I went, or was it already winter? I went to PAX Unplugged, where we all met
We did.
Yeah, we did. It was awesome.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, it was so cool. And I was just hanging out with with people from with partners and friends from Exalted Funeral, and they were like, maybe we should do a box set of the job. And I was like, oh, yeah, let's absolutely do it, because I had that intention already at some point releasing the game again. But with these talks, the idea came that we should do a box set with all the cool stuff inside. So that's how it came to be, basically.
What's funny is that you are probably the only one that would be surprised that this would be a hit, because I can only speak for American audiences, but everybody loves a heist. Like, if it's a movie that's a heist, if it's a story that's a heist, if it's the point in like a comic book you've been reading for a while, they're like, well, we got to put a team together, we got to steal some shit. Or like, you're watching a TV show that normally would not involve a heist, and it's like, suddenly we got to do a heist. Like, that's the episode, man.
Yeah.
that is the part that really brings this together. Now, one thing I want to tell our listeners to definitely do, quick little divergence on this, is there is a free preview of this on Exalted Funeral right now. I highly recommend you get this ahead of the game. It's going to get you even more hype from it. It's kind of like hearing the single before you hear the album. But the design of this is really truly dialed in to what a cinematic heist is all about. I mean, even like you're looking at something like the requirements, a plan sheet, a crew member sheet, 70s funk music, which is obviously what you need. So where did your inspiration come from when you're like, I got to put myself in the mindset of putting a heist together legally? Remember, this is all alleged, so anything that they're talking about is allegedly. Tell our listeners a little bit about that.
So in terms of what we did with the game, what I tried to do with the game is, there's this ongoing game design tutorial on RPGs. I'm sure you guys know about this. I have no idea if it's still relevant today or not, but it kind of resonates with me, which RPGs are divided into like the narrative, the simulationist, and the gamist. Right. So the gamist being you're trying to beat the game, you're trying to win against the game or the dungeon or whatever, people normally recall Tomb of Horrors or something as something that's gamist. Then you have the simulationist, where characters are inhabiting a pre-written and predetermined world, and they do the actions, or what the character does is what's expected of that character in that context, in that setting. And then you have the narrative, which is kind of like emergent fiction, play to find out, nothing is pre-written, and you just kind of like write the setting and the universe and the world and the character arcs as the game evolves and progresses. So this is kind of like, I try to make a mix of all these elements, because I'm very much, or normally what we do with Games Omnivorous is this kind of like simulationist approach of RPGs, right? Where there's pre-inhabited worlds like Mouse Ridge or Vaults of Arn. They're very pre-written, and then you have like characters that can do stuff in a fairly limited way, rules-wise, not limited by creativity, but rules-wise. And then you have the gamist and the narrative. So I was kind of like, what can I do that kind of brings this together? And I think the heist is really a good way to combine all these elements. You have the gamist element in this game, because you're really trying to win, right? It's not an RPG where winning or losing is relevant. You're trying to beat the game. You're trying to complete the heist. And there's a real chance that you cannot do it, that you or your crew, the crew gets defeated. So that's a real possibility. Then you have obviously the narrative side or the narrative aspect of this game. It's very much apocalypse world, fiasco, 10 candles experience in a way. So it plays like those types of games where the crew doesn't even have stats. They roll 2d6s, and then if they roll between 2 and 6, something really bad happens. If they roll between a 7 or a 9, they get away. The action succeeds, but they need to either buy a setback, which mechanically is something that the GM can pick on, or they have to stack dice in a dice stack, right? And then when the dice falls, when the stack falls, collapses, stuff happens, obviously, that works against the players. And then if you have a roll of 10 or plus, you can remove, so the action succeeds and you can remove a dice from, but there's no stats. So characters don't have like strength or wisdom or whatever. Whenever they do an action, they just roll these 2 dice and let's see what happens. And then they have space for gear. The characters are defined by gear, and something that I called stunts, which are like special maneuvers that they can do once per game or stuff like that. So for instance, the bruiser has a cool one, which he can de-escalate, or the bruiser can de-escalate a situation by the player physically blowing as hard as they can on the dice stack. So whatever dice falls from them blowing on the dice,
I love it.
That de-escalates the situation. So stuff like this, So that's the narrative aspect. The thing is, I always like these games, but I'm kind of like bad at running them because I lack structure. So you know what I mean? Like this, whenever I play these very improv, narrative, story-driven games, I kind of lack the structure to guide the players in doing a cool story, right? So what I did here was the game, this game, the job is divided in 2 phases. And the second phase, which I just described, is the action phase, where players get to roll dice and do actions and kind of like live through the heist. And the first phase is actually just devoted to preparing the heist, to planning the heist. So it's called the preparation phase, and it takes like an hour and a half. And it's basically just the players deciding exactly how the heist will go down. Or, well, not exactly, but they are planning the heist. So they have to write 12 scenes. They have to fill in a plan sheet with 12 scenes, 12 sentences or small paragraphs saying, character A is going to go to the front desk and try to convince the guards that they need to come in or whatever. And then it goes all the way through to the last scene, which is scene 12. And then you hand this over to the GM, and the GM is going to run whatever the players wrote for them. So that's the funny part, because it kind of simulates the idea of, preparing your own gaming session simulates the idea of preparing a heist. So that's where I combine all these elements, because the lack of structure that I found in more narrative, story-driven RPGs is compensated by this idea of planning the gaming session for the GM in a way. So that's kind of where it all ties together. Sorry, I talk too much.
No, it's great. Love it.
I love the fact that I'm the same way as you. Like, I love the idea of looser, more improvisational games, but I can't run them. And I never feel comfortable. Even like eventually I could like get it going. Even like Troika sometimes stumps me as a player, but I do eventually get going, but I never feel comfortable with it. But like having that framework and making the players do it is sort of delightful to me on a lot of levels. It feels like I'm performing the heist,
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. It's kind of like, it's a bit, it's a bit lazy. It comes from my laziness as a GM, right?
It is, but at the same time, you create a house of cards when you plan a heist, and everything has to go to plan for you to succeed. Now, granted, the fun is always found in things not going to plan, and the pivots that are having to be made in order not to get caught, shot, go into jail, or the whole thing to go foobar, as it were. Now, that also does leave a lot of room for, while you're like, I don't know how to do this, like your reactions are going to be everything. And it's going to constantly escalate. Your reactions make the players do something crazy, and that's going to make you do something crazier. You go into the action phase after that. Now, knowing that, things are going to be consistently changing on the fly. I mean, I doubt, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've probably never run a game that went exactly to plan, right? Because there is always the dice. So how does the action phase work then?
So once the players have figured out what their plan is and have written down these 12 scenes, they hand it to the GM, and the GM starts basically running whatever they wrote for them. But then obviously the game and the rule book gives you tools to complicate that, to create obstacles, to create unpredictability. And that's obviously the fun part of the action phase. So when people start rolling dice and they don't succeed in their actions, they have to improvise a different solution to that particular problem that they're facing. That's when obviously imagination, creativity, and things start to go sideways. And it's always the case with this game. Obviously, things go sideways. And in playtest, a lot of my groups weren't even able to complete the heist, and it was just as fun. It was like going down in an absolute catastrophic blaze is also very fun. So that's also part of the game. And then there's this mechanic mathematically, right? When you roll 2d6s, most of the dice will be between 6 and 8 or 9, something like it's going to be in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So what we have here in this system is that if you roll between a 7 and a 9, you succeeded in an action, but you have to do one of two things. You stack dice on a dice stack, and that represents tension growing. Or you buy a setback. And a setback is a really cool thing that it's a tool that you're giving the GM. So a setback could be like a classic example would be like, let's imagine that the character is tying 2 guards in the security room so that they don't call the police or whatever. And then the character goes and makes a roll, and it's an 8. So they succeed, but the player buys a setback. So what the GM says is something like, "Oh, okay, you managed to secure the guards with rope. They're tied to the chair, but as you leave the room, you left a scissors on top of the table. That's it, nothing else. That's the setback, Then what happens is a few scenes later, you're going to introduce, remember those guards that you left tied to with the scissors on the table? Now they're here and they're calling the police, or they have dogs or whatever. So that's kind of like how the system works. And in terms of the dice stack, you start by stacking just one dice to the stack. Then if it falls, something can happen, right? And then you reassemble, you start the dice stack again from scratch, but you're going to be putting 2 dice instead of 1. And then there's a third tower that you're going to be stacking 3 dice each time you have to stack dice. So it falls really quickly, like maybe 2-3 failed actions and the stack goes. So it's kind of like represents the tension escalating and, edginess or whatever, nervous and that kind of stuff.
How'd you come up with the dice stacking thing? I think that it sort of elegantly builds on a lot of uncontrollable gameplay elements like the Jenga tower in Dread, or the candles in 10 Candles.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely comes from the Jenga tower from Dread. That's where I got my inspiration. But I know that a lot of people don't own a Jenga tower, but people always have dice, so that's kind of where it comes from. It's
plus players like to stack dice naturally. It's
it's kind of a classic table habit.
Yeah,
exactly. And there was a time in when I was playtesting the game. Then I got rid of that mechanic because it complicated things too much. But I had something that when the stack collapsed, right, you would actually check the result on the dice and things could happen, but it complicated the system too much. So I got rid of that. Maybe, I'll re-implement it sometime. I don't know.
Like on average, when does a stack of dice really start to be dangerous? Like what's the highest ones that you've had?
It's probably not going to go higher than like 13, 14.
Wow, that's actually higher than I expected.
But usually it's like 8, 9, 10. It depends, but yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because the box set comes with 15 D6s.
Wow, all right.
And that's And that explains everything right there, because as you look through the Backerkit, you're going to see what it comes with, and it comes with. I was like 15. That's a very specific number of D. Now I get it.
You have to use round-edged dice, because if you use those like very how do you call it, non-round edge? I don't know.
The sharp edge.
Sharp edge one, that doesn't work. Like that, you can build like a tower of 20 or 25, so that completely breaks the game.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Man, I love that. I feel like one of the beautiful things about the game is that if you're sort of like on the and this is sort of what my reaction to it was like, oh, a heist game, that's cool. Like, will I be able to get my friends to play a narrative-driven heist game? I don't know, but the thing that pushed me over the edge was the aesthetic is just right on. It's just so 70s heist movie. It's like got like that really strong graphic design, but it's still very modern because like you have like the collage aspects that I've come to expect from sort of European games. How did you develop the art style? What were you thinking about, like with drawing from older stuff? There's definitely the Italia job, we mentioned that, but I feel like there's other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was a credit to Gontijo here, who designed the first edition. Now he's unfortunately not on the project anymore for lack of time. So now it's the in-house graphic designers that are taking care of the rest of the production. But obviously Gontijo is a central figure of this game because his aesthetics are absolutely incredible. So in my head, it wasn't necessarily a 70s thing. It was probably the first experiments we did were very like Ocean's 11, kind of like early 2000s. They had that kind of like aesthetics. Vegasy, exactly, that kind of a vibe. And then Gontijo entered the project, and I was like, I trust Gontijo with everything. So it's like he said, oh, maybe we should do like a 70s thing. It's like, okay, sure, do it. And then he kind of like went on his own for like, I don't know, a month or so, and he came back with the book almost done. I was like, what the fuck? Like, how is this possible? Like, you did an incredible job with almost no art direction. It's just unbelievable job by Gontijo.
Kind of how I imagine him working is just going to like a secret laboratory and then bringing these beautiful things out. His work is so wonderful.
Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. So then all of a sudden, we're doing a 70s, and it really makes sense that it is a kind of like a 70s thing because heist movies were very popular back then, and they have this kind of like vibe. That the era has a vibe that matches really well with the genre. So it is what it is. It's credits to Gontijo, basically.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual Backerkit of it because it's very cool. And I will tell people that while this episode will air about a week into the campaign, this thing's gonna fund. I have no doubt in my mind by the time you're hearing this episode and being like, oh man, that's really cool. You're going to be happy to be putting it in your cart. However, hopefully you got there ahead of time though, because I've seen like a lot of like early Backerkits, early bird rewards. This is one of my favorites. You get early backer reward if you back within the first 2 days. You get a pack of 4 not robber masks. They're like domino masks that you would wear while you are conducting your heist and allegedly doing criminal activity. Talk to us a little bit about the stuff that you're going to get inside the box, because obviously by the time everyone hears this, you're going to get the same experience. There's a lot of cool stuff crammed into this actual box set.
So you're going to get a book, the rule book. Obviously, it's very similar to the first edition, but it has some updates. We fixed some things. We there's a new section called Advanced Rules. It has some new stuff, but nothing that changes the game in a major decisive way. Then you're going to get the character sheets. They're going to be reusable character sheets that you can use. That you have it comes with a dry erase mark that you can reuse. Basically, then there's the plan sheet, which you can also, it's going to be reusable. There's the briefing notepad, so you can write a briefing for your players and hand it out to the players. A bunch of dice, 15, as you, John, were saying. That's the number. And then we're going to have a bunch of adventure envelopes. So the game has 5 briefings, which are kind of like adventures. A briefing is defined by the object that the players have to rob, the location where the object is located, and then a budget, which is the number of the money that they can spend on gear to pull off the heist. Then it has also 6 complications. The complications kind of define how the players, or what the players must challenge or must defeat or must face when they write the plan. So there's 6 complex security cameras or guards or dogs or whatever. There's a bunch of tools in the rule book that give you ideas for this. So these are things that the players have to include in the plan. And they have to kind of like, you can read them as obstacles that they have to overcome. So there's a briefing notepad for the GM to hand out briefings to players. And then there's the adventure envelopes, which expand the example briefs already in the rulebook. So these are 5 jobs. They're example jobs that the players can pull off. They range from trying to steal Triceratops skull from the Museum of Natural History to robbing Michelangelo's the statue David, which weighs like 5 tons, from a private Scottish castle in the Highlands or whatever. So that's kind of like the example brief. So the adventure envelopes will have kind of like fake money and props and the briefing and a sample plan inside that kind of expands what it is already in the rulebook. And all of them will come with a sample plan, which basically is for those very, very lazy players that don't want to think about doing a heist. They just want to go straight to the action phase. So that's also provided.
And you also get a backer exclusive adventure, correct?
Yes. And on top of, so this is the base box set with the stretch goals. And then there is one adventure, one of these that's going to be just for backers. Correct. And we cannot talk about it because it's top secret.
Oh, of course. I mean, but you'll tell us off the air, right? I mean,
I never. This sounds very much like you taking the basic formula in terms of presentation or aesthetic from the Mouse Ritter box sets. And sort of putting it towards the heist, because like I love those. I feel like it's important to mention those box sets because they're just so good. They have so many good bits, and those bits aren't just like superfluous bits. They're bits that help you play the game or want to engage in different ways with the game because of like the inventory chits and stuff. Like it makes the game extra playable. It sounds like you've taken the same sort of approach.
Well, yeah. I mean, Mouse Ritter, the box set, is probably our biggest, well, probably no, most certainly our biggest hit. So lots of lessons learned from that box set. Absolutely. So we're giving a lot of interactive, cool things that players can work with and engage with. And obviously was something that we did, I think, successfully with Mouse Ritter, and we're trying to replicate here to an extent, obviously. Yeah.
I think the estate, the second Mouse Ritter box set is legit one of my top 5 box sets in role-playing games.
Well, thank you.
I love that huge box set. It's so good.
No, it is. It was a fun experiment with lots of different. It was very difficult to survive doing that, but in the end, I'm very pleased. Yeah,
it's just pure magic. You open the box and it's just pamphlet after pamphlet after it was bottomless. It was so good. And so now this is turning into a commercial for Mouse Ritter.
For Mouse Ritter.
Listen, anyone who's listened to the show knows that if you come on the show, we end up saying very nice things to you and about you. Like, you weren't here because we are at our core fans.
I don't mind.
The stuff that people create. Yeah. So
thanks so much. Mouse Ritter was a very interesting and formative project in my game designer / publisher career. So yeah, absolutely trying to emulate the success here, which we shall see.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it compares.
Yeah.
It's really fun, and as a sort of just a fan of what you do, to see that kind of the consistency and how it evolves. I mean, it's no different from like the way that I've looked at Chaosium over the decades. I love being able to watch something evolve and develop, and the ways in which what makes it from product to product, or what gets reintroduced or falls behind. I really enjoy watching that. So
thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, so this is the normal time when we pretty much go home on the episode. Now, Stu, that felt like a pretty good final thought to me. I've got one more question for everybody here. What is your favorite heist movie? Like, what is, when you think of a heist, what is that movie or TV show that brings it to mind, brings it home for you, and really sells you on wanting to allegedly perform a heist yourself?
Me personally, I think, or was this for Stu? Sorry.
For both of you, but you go first. Okay. You're the guest.
For me, I think it has to be Ocean's 11.
How about you, Stu?
I am legitimately torn between the 1969 Italian Job and the David Mamet The Heist.
Okay.
Both good. Both good.
I mean, just I probably The Heist. The arrogance of the name and the fact that Ricky Jay is in it just gives it like a little bit of an edge. So.
Yeah. For me, it's actually Ocean's 13.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
unexpected.
It's an unexpected take. It's a controversial take, but Ocean's 11 really is a perfect heist movie. But 13, man, there's just something about it where like everyone, they're having a good time. They're all happy to be there. And it was very personal why they went and did that heist. And so like, I don't know, that one always resonates with me the best. But listen, dear listener, y'all probably have your favorite heist movies as well. I'm sure we would be glad to hear about them in the comments. If you really love heist stuff, I cannot recommend enough The Job Boxset Edition. It is live on Backerkit. It is going to be probably about a week in by the time you hear this, but it's going for 31 days up until May 23rd. This is going to be one you're going to want to get in on. This is going to be the one you're going to want to get to the table with your friends because there's nothing more fun than allegedly doing crime. Andre, it was fantastic chatting with you today. Where can people find your work on social media?
So we're at gamesomnivorous.com, and then we're very active now, or relatively active on Blue Sky. So that's Games Omnivorous at Blue Sky. And we also have Instagram and Facebook. And we do have a Discord. So you just go you can go on our homepage, gamesomnivorous.com. You scroll down until you see the Discord logo, and press the button, and you're invited to talk with all our fans and community in our Discord server.
Very cool. Well, this has been another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Stu, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me at vintagerpg.com. No more of that Instagram nonsense. The post for, it's not going to help for the Backerkit, but I have a post on the original version of The Job coming up in July. Look at that. I was predicting the future, but I was off by a couple months.
There you go. You can find me across the internet. Just kidding. I'm at hamandeggpublishing.com. It's a great spot where you can find links to all the books that I've published so far. Also, a link to my Discord community where I'm chatting. I'm active there. Haven't been active in like the last week, but I'm pretty much active there, posting music, posting things. Going to be talking more about the Hotel Exorcist, running in a game of the Hotel Exorcist now that we finally got it out to the backers, and talking about the stuff that we've got coming soon from 3-2-1 RPG, Zombie Brain Eaters, Crowdfund Your Fucking Life, and my upcoming adventure that is compatible with Weird Heroes of Public Access called Days of Future Fairhaven. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews really do help other listeners to find us. And if you really like the show, why not become a patron? Patreon.com/vintagerpg. This is where the action is. For as little as $1 a month, you can get early release episodes of the Vintage RPG Podcast, usually on Friday or Saturday, depending on when we record them. We have a $5 tier where you play a game with me a month. I generally run things that we talk about here on the show. $10 tier is my game plus Stu's legendary West Marches campaign, which is, if you've heard me say it before, you can hear me say it again, very deadly. We also have a killer Discord community we'd love for you to be a part of, patreon.com/vintagerpg. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. Go back the job on Backerkit. Stay safe out there, and may the dice always roll in your favor. Take care. Thanks for listening. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Schaefer Brown. Edited by R. Alex Murray. Check us out at vintagerpg.com.